How's it going, Sat? Thanks for doing this. The running game seemed to break loose last week, especially on some of the edge runs. Just how much of a departure was that, I guess, from what you guys had been doing, and had that always been in there, and last week you just decided to start using it?
Yeah, I mean, it was just different variations of the wide zone play, which we probably run. I mean, it doesn't look like it sometimes, I'm sure, but we probably run more wide zone plays than we do tight zone plays. So I think it was just a little bit better execution, still far from where it needs to be a consistent rushing offense, but it got a little bit better at times.
Coach, how close is this offense to finding comfort and continuity with each other? It seems that every game you're seeing flashes of the guys growing together, but not quite where it needs to be.
I would say, trying to answer that in the right way. That's a good question. I think there's comfort. I think everyone within the system, they're understanding the system. It's getting close to a little bit more fluid action throughout the whole team. But I still think we're trying to. When I say find our identity, I don't mean we're lost. We're just trying to, like you said, people are flashing everywhere. Like the same two or three guys aren't flashing consistently. And so as coaches, we have to continue through our system and through our personnel to find that sweet spot where we do have that zen moment offensively where we are operating as one. But it's because it's still a little bit everywhere right now. And we work tirelessly every day to try to players and coaches to get more in line, both athletically on the field, communications, everything. So it's going in the right direction, though. Great group of guys.
Marcus, yesterday Luke mentioned that the communication probably can be better between himself and the offensive line, especially when it comes with the zone blocking scheme. My question is, are you seeing different things maybe in terms of the fronts? Is it a little bit different maybe once you guys get into the game in comparison to what you guys are preparing for? Or is it maybe some of the movement pre-snap, or is it something else?
I think the last three games, starting with Georgia, they did all the shifts and stems. They keep getting people to jump offside. I think that Troy did a lot of what we call stemming. They took 41, who's a DN, and then they'd run him over in the backside B gap, and they were just building all kinds of little fronts every play, just trying to create mayhem, a lot like East Carolina did. I think that played a factor, and the combinations. We got mixed up on who the mic was, and then we'd call a mic, and then 3 seconds before the ball was snapped, the guy would move, and then we weren't able to adjust that quick, which we should be able to. But he's right. The communication does have to continue to grow for him to make sure that everyone else is getting the information needed to get the right blocking pattern going. But he's a competitor like he is on the field. Like he wants to do everything, and right now he doesn't need to do everything. He needs to play really good quarterback and then give certain spots of the game to where he needs to communicate certain things.
Set kind of continuing with Luke. I know he mentioned yesterday wanting to be able to use his feet a little bit more and trust his. He feels like he trusts his foot more than he has in the past. How do you kind of toe that line of telling him, okay, this is when you guys should run, or this is when you should push the ball down the field? What's that message like in practice and in the meeting rooms?
We've not limited him at all. Like we haven't looked at it or put, we haven't imposed our own limitations of when you can and can't run. I'm with him. I think he does need to utilize his feet more. I think that. That's one of his gifts is his feet, and I think as he gets more comfortable and his foot gets the healing of the foot, starts to fasten, I think that you'll see him do that. I think that was an emphasis for us this week, and I think you'll see that grow throughout the rest of the season.
Is there an art to throwing the deep ball? Like, do you teach certain things to your quarterbacks, or is it more just drop back and huck it as far as you can?
Yeah, if you have to teach it, it's probably. I mean, you can work on certain techniques and tools in order to throw the deep ball, but I think it's like being a running back. If you have to teach a running back how to run and see things, he's probably not a very good running back. I think you've got to have the ability to throw the deep ball and have the touch and the timing. It's got to be somewhat natural.
And Coach Beamer talked to us yesterday about EJ doing some more things in practice, which has led to more playing time. And he also mentioned a catch that I think he said last Thursday EJ had in practice. Can you recall that?
We were doing a 2-minute drill, and we threw a post up. The safety goes up to intercept it, and EJ's hand literally just lifts up his left hand, and the kid thinks he's going to get an interception. And right about that time, EJ just grabs it with one hand and yanks it down and just keeps running. we thought it was an incomplete pass, and obviously it wasn't, but it was an amazing catch. And I think little plays like that he's made both physically, through the run game and on the perimeter blocking, and then that catch that he had in 2 minutes, I think it's given him confidence, and he just keeps getting better and better. I mean, 3 weeks ago, he wasn't getting a lot of playing time, and he came and he said, what do I need to do to get playing time? And we talked, like we talked in here, like practice, practice, practice. And he, since that day, has just been practicing at a really high level. Commitment to the game has been awesome. He's in here at night studying, getting extra film, and I think his role is just going to keep growing and growing.
Marcus, when you just look at inside zone runs or between the tackle runs, you mentioned some of the movement up front. Has that been the biggest reason why the inside just hasn't cracked open this late?
Nope. I think the biggest reason is I don't ever want to be a coach that sits up here and like it's on us as coaches. Like, we have to coach. We have to have our kids prepared, our young men prepared to go execute. We have to practice the right way. We have to run the right plays. All that has to occur, and then in turn, the athlete now has to go execute those things that you worked on, and they have to strain, and they have to be tough, and they have to finish, and they have to know and do their job. So all those factors, starting with the coaching staff and myself, bleed over into the student athlete, where they have to, you got to meet halfway, and you can coach and coach and coach, and then you got to go out there and you got to play and you got to execute. So I think a lot of what we do is just very self-inflicted things that we have to do better coaching, and then we have to do better executing from a physicality, strain, finish standpoint.
Marcus asked Shane about third downs yesterday or the other day, but as far as that goes, I mean, what goes into being better on third down? Is it, setting yourself up on first and second down? Is it, finding the right play call? Is it a mix of both? I mean, or is it just kind of a down that we tend to circle and say, hey, it hasn't been quite as good here? I mean, what kind of goes into it, and I guess what makes, a team successful on third down?
First down is the most important part. I mean, if you can stay on schedule first down, you have a really good chance at least getting to 3rd and 2 to 3. Then you have to be able to, throw the ball. You have to drop back and pass the ball now on third down, especially in certain situations. Last week the numbers would say that we weren't very good, but there was 3 4th downs that we converted. I think 3. So if you take like the 4 of 13 that we were, it's really, we're 2 of 3. So if the 4 of 13 was really 6 of 13, which is pretty much, we don't want to be average by any stretch of the imagination, but it was kind of in that national average of where it was. So when you dig and peel the numbers back and peel the layers back, it wasn't as bad, because a lot of times on third down, I know I've got 2 downs. And so you're going to run the ball, or you're going to do a high percentage pass play when Coach Beamer's like, hey, Sat, you got 2 downs here. So a lot of these third down numbers start getting skewed, because you would love to have gotten a first down, but you're just handing the ball off to make sure that you get it to 4th and 1. You hope that it pops for a first down. So a lot of those, you end up converting that possession, but it just doesn't show on the stat sheet. But we are by no means where we need to be on third down.
You kind of touched on it, but y'all have obviously been pretty aggressive on 4th down. I mean, how much is that something that you and Shane talk about either pre-game, post, in the game as it's going on? I mean, how much does that just feel? And I guess what are those conversations like?
We start on, like, after Coach White and I watch the opponent, we'll start on Monday night just to how we're going to play the game. Do we need to try to stay on the field longer? If so, how can we steal possessions? Is it, going for it on 4th down? How close do we need to be to kick a field goal with Coach Limbo? And then that kind of plays into it. I mean, if we can make a field goal from the 30, that's one thing. If you don't have a kicker that can make it from the 30, there's no need of punting. So just, Coach Beamer's whole thing is just make sure you have a set of plays once you cross the 50 in that little strike zone area that is a 2-down, 3rd down call. So there's a lot that goes into it. And again, I don't want you to think that I wasn't saying we were great on 3rd down, because we are not great on 3rd down, and we have to get a lot better. But there is a lot of things that go into that.
So kind of continuing with that a little bit, it seems like the offense was great against Troy, getting over into plus territory, and really stalled once it got past midfield. Is there a common theme there, or what as coaches or players do you guys have to do to be able to finish drives and score touchdowns?
There was a couple on me, because I went into last game and I basically just said, we're throwing this thing and we're freaking going. We're going at it. And so there was a couple times, especially in the first half, where we hit the reverse and we got down to the 30, 45, whatever it was, across midfield, took a shot. Then we run it on 2nd down, got 4 yards, and then we didn't get it on 3rd down. We had to kick a field goal, I believe, on that possession. But there was a couple times where I was just taking shots and kind of just I cared a lot about the game, but at that moment I wanted our guys to play free. I wanted them to just loosen up. And so early on, I think that hurt us. And then just not being able to consistently hand the ball off and run it. When you get into that area, it starts to affect you because highly rated red zone football teams can run the football. And usually when you get in the red zone, that's when you run your quarterback. And right now, our quarterback, I'm not going to do that until he gets fully 100%. So we have to find a way as coaches to hand the ball off and run it. And I think that will help us. But you're right. I think there were 6 possessions where we had a 1st and 10 across the 40-yard line that we got 9 points. And if you just score 2 touchdowns and get 2 field goals, it feels totally different.
And I guess Zaquandre started the first 2 games, and then Kevin started the last 3, and I don't think Zaquandre's had to carry the last 2. Is that just guys playing better than him in practice, or what do you think he has to do to get on the field more from an offensive standpoint?
He's been practicing well. He's contributing on special teams. I think Kevin and Juju have been our main 2 ball carriers the last couple of games, and I think that's just it's fortunate yet unfortunate for the kid, I guess, that there's 4 really, really good running backs in that room. So you can only hand the ball off to one guy, and you got to keep working and preparing. And when you never know when his chance is going to come. It may be this week. He goes out there and he just goes off. You don't know when it's going to go. You just better be prepared and be ready to do that. And so he's always got a smile on his face, super competitive, great practice player. And again, he's bought into the special teams aspect. And my thought process on him has definitely not changed. He just has to keep working, and when his opportunity comes, capitalize on it.
We got time for 2 more quick ones. Hale in the back, and then Mike.
What does it mean to you to go back to Knoxville on Saturday?
It's pretty cool. I mean, my dad was a high school coach in East Tennessee, so I grew up going to games there. I think it was Section Q, row 19, seat 21, 23. I can see it right now. So it's going to be really cool. I went back at one time when I was a head coach at Tennessee Tech. That was pretty neat, but it's going to be really cool to be another SEC team, get to go in there and actually, have a chance to win the game. So, got a bunch of family and friends that are fired up, going to be at the game, and shoot, when the ball's kicked off, it'll be back. It'll be before the game. Be pretty cool. Just kind of look around and experience it and feel it. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's like I don't do that before the game. No, it's a hell of an opportunity. It's a hell of a moment for me. Grew up there, so to be out there on that stage on that field where all the great memories I've had with my dad, my family, it's going to be really, really cool. And then when it's time to lock in, we'll lock in.
Let's go. Last question, Mike.
Marcus, 2 questions. One I forgot to ask you. When you go back to the with pre-snap, in your offense, do you guys have Eric or is Luke identifying the mic?
Eric will identify the mic, and then Luke will either agree with it or if he wants to change, because Eric can't see everything. And so if there's something that Luke can see from a perimeter standpoint, he has the right to override it any time he wants to.
And the other thing I was going to ask you is, obviously it's so easy just to look at the offensive line, but this year in comparison to last, I know they were under center a lot with you guys. It seems like you guys are doing more out of pistol. Is that to be able to help with those angles instead of doing it more offset? And how has that kind of been helping the timing of the running backs? Because I'm sure it's a little different for them when they're trying to hit that hole, not being, in that I formation.
No, I agree. And it's shocking for me to answer that question, because if you would have told me 2 months ago, I'd have told you I was probably under center more. But I think it's got a lot to do with Luke, his foot, making sure he can get out from under center. And you can, whether a guy's a good gun runner or a good pistol runner, we can format and adapt to that at any moment. I do think when you can get under center, the back has a greater chance of getting downhill and getting positive yards. I think it's really hard when you're an offset gun and it's zone read and he doesn't know if he's getting the ball or not. And then you hand the ball to him and then you run aggressively. But before a second ago, he had no idea if he was getting it or not. I don't like all that stuff. So I don't know if I'm agreeing or disagreeing or helping you or not with that answer, but once everything starts to calm down and Luke starts to get even more healthy, I think that there'll be a great mixture of under center and the pistol and the gun.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you all very much.